Welcome to the 5 Questions Podcast, where we unlock real estate and business insights one question at a time. Welcome to the 5 Questions Podcast. I am your host, Mario Lamarre, and our guest on today's show, she is an author, a speaker, facilitator, an expert in leadership, emotional intelligence, and organizational change. As the author of Manage Self, Lead Others, and a certified speaking professional, she helps leaders uncover hidden profit leaks, improve communication, and build cultures that actually work, not just look good on paper. Welcome, Nina Sunday. Nina, welcome to 5 Questions Podcast.
Wonderful to be with you, Mario. I'm excited.
Nina, the concept of the podcast, real simple. 5 questions about business or real estate. In this case, it'll be business, and we'll get straight to the point. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
First question I have for you. You've worked with companies across many industries and often uncover significant profit leaks in just within 90 minutes of speaking with them. What are some of the most common profit leaks that business owners completely overlook?
Well, here's the thing, Mario. For this sprint, as I call it, a 90-minute sprint, it's really designed. Well, it can be 3 hours. I did 90 people for 3 hours. I did, 100 people for 90 minutes. Whatever is the set configuration for the conference.
Right.
It's actually a dynamic, empowered, participatory event. A sprint is where, after I do a 30-minute keynote, say it's 90 minutes, do a 30-minute keynote about, thinking differently, about identifying, what is brainstorming, how to get ideas, how to ask the right questions, how might we find a fix for this profit leak that is that we've just ignored, but we've identified during this brainstorm. So I'll prime them for the event. Then I'll have flip chart stations around the room, posters with, I would have prepared something tailored to the conference. Like the last one was a tire company. Before that, it was an agricultural stores in rural Victoria state in Australia. So I would have done some prep, but generally, if you think about all the different areas that an accountant might come in and talk to people about, I'm not an accountant. I've been a business owner for many years, but I'm also not in retail selling tires. But coincidentally, that's the company I do get my tires from. They're a good company. But we'll just have headings such as, the first one, inventory. Are you holding obsolete stock? But these are all I'll read out some of the questions they can be asking. Are
Right.
we holding obsolete stock? Do we buy part of a set just for a customer, or do we buy the whole set? Things like that. So that's inventory. Operational. There's so many operational profit leaks. When I say these are areas where there's money being spent and nothing's being done to fix it. And the people that know most about it are the people at the coalface in the front line.
Yeah.
So it could be labour, it could be absenteeism, it could be tax minimisation. Of course, they will answer the questions themselves. So obviously, no decisions are made, anything to do with record keeping or working with the tax office, but certainly KPIs.
Yeah.
Often people are struggling to meet the KPIs when actually, if they really stopped and did a slow think and a group self-questioning about the topic that they self-select, and all the stations are around the room. There could be 13 or 20 flip chart stations, assuming it's a large spacious room. They select the flip chart, they select the topic, and then we'll get them to photograph their results. But here are the steps. They pop the ideas in a brainstorm onto the flip chart, where the categories where there are issues with expenses that are really blowing out or are unjustified.
Yeah.
Then they brainstorm a possible fix for each one of those. Then they rate it according to, is it low effort, high impact, or high effort, high impact? But we don't bother with the high effort, low impact ideas because
Yeah.
people will throw up ideas. We don't uh, prejudge, but we get them onto paper and then we work out what is the best idea that is doable in the next 7 days. And then they commit as a team, because usually it's, if it's a company that has multiple branches, usually a branch will pick a topic. So it's their own group and they'll commit to applying that fix in the next 7 days. So uh, it it works like a charm, and it's not about me telling them what they should do. That's theory.
Yeah.
They're identifying what they need to fix, and then we share with the room. Everybody gets a handheld mic. We pass it along, and because if it is the same company, one group is giving ideas to the next group, even though group two might be looking at uh, scheduling workers better. Another group might be looking at how we're not record keeping according to what we need to do, or we're spending too much time in the wrong area. People will be sharing, and so people can walk out with, 20 ideas that they could commit to once a week for the next
So
7 days
so
period.
what I'm hearing from you is that there really isn't any specific common leaks, except that it has to do with either productivity or, like you said, employees itself, like the behaviors of the employees. Are they showing up at work or not? Are they being lazy or committed to the environment? And then once you identify those bigger parts, then you break them down in discussions with the employees, with the leadership of that company.
Absolutely. Now, that's what I call the sprint. As a professional speaker, of course, I have a range of topics that I've delivered 45-minute sessions,
Yeah.
to 600 people on leadership and, aiming for your North Star. But I find that this sprint works really well when you want to give your people something that's a bit out of the box, that is participatory, but also it's their ideas, and it's their ideas around innovation. Look, for the agricultural company, we called it thinking differently, and we actually did a broader range of topics like innovation, customer service, or customer loyalty, a whole range. Whereas the tire company, they wanted a focus on profit leaks and what can we fix.
Yeah. We'll go to question number two, because you said something fascinating, that the people doing the work already know where the money is leaking. They just been never asked to deep go deeper. Why do leaders so often miss the insights sitting right in front of them?
Well, you see, it depends on the leadership style of the leaders, a senior leadership. Now, the old style leadership was the senior leader is the source of all knowledge, and they feel that it's expected of them to come up with the answers. But you see, one of a presentation on change that I attended 20 years ago, and I've subsequently become accredited in ProSci ADCAR change. Um, the conversation topic was, go to your people with questions, not with answers.
Yeah.
But there are still a lot of senior leaders that think they have to have the answers. And do you know what? We've moved into the age of AI, where AI gives us the answers. So a senior leader can probably ask a question of AI, and so can a person, an individual contributor.
Yeah.
It's about implementing change and implementing fixes. And that's where, if you want to win their hearts and minds, let them suggest the fix and then they'll own it.
I love that. It comes from within.
Hmm.
It's easier to keep accountability after, because you're not forcing something down their throat. They said it themselves.
That's right. Because uh, as a ProSci AdCard change manager, the main gripe we see is that when there's a big initiative, and I've worked with a company recently where there's going to be a whole, they're merging with another company. The project managers are all focused on how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're all wondering what's going to happen to them. No one's talking to them. I mean, they're at the awareness stage. They know it's going to happen, but they haven't got any desire, which is the D in ADKAR, because no one's told them what's in it for them, the benefit for them, and they're all scared for their jobs.
Yeah.
And when there's no information, people think the worst.
Yeah.
Well, you
Absolutely.
don't want your team, you don't want people jumping ship because they think they're going to lose their job anyway.
Yeah.
How
You're right.
crazy is that?
You're right.
So it's communication and having a communication plan when there's a big change. So I can go in and talk to leaders about how to initiate change and have a timeline of a communication plan so you keep your people on board. And of course, if you're merging two companies, that has to happen to both companies. So we don't have the silo effect.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
people thinking, oh, I want my team to work. Oh, forget about them. They can sink or swim. That's not good for
Implementing,
effectiveness.
yeah, and implementing a team for two people or two teams to become one team is a work in itself.
Well, that's right. A few little get to knows wouldn't hurt. That's a bit obvious, but I think there's sometimes the project manager, quite rightly, is focused on the technical aspect of rolling out a change, and the senior leaders, but they need someone with interpersonal skills to be able to say, "Hey, I've noticed there's a little bit of murmuring going on. Can we have some sort of information share so we can answer some of those questions?" But that's the sort of area that I work in, people skills, because my book is the subtitle is Constructive Conversations, and uh, one of the things I've discovered is that some people think there's only one type of giving feedback, and there's a whole continuum. And it's a bit like if you think about situational leadership, they talk about high directive and low directive. If you've got someone who's very capable and yet they've got a bit of a blind spot about maybe some impact of their own behavior, someone, who is good at nuanced communication can just point out, look, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's been observed, I've observed that when you say this, that other people react this way, and I'm not sure if you're aware of that. End of feedback.
Yeah.
Give them time to give
Process it.
their surprise.
Yeah.
They sometimes, or sometimes they'll just go into justification and denial. But the thing is to have the conversation that isn't, on this date, you did this and I felt frustrated and the team da da da, and in future, would you please do that? That's one template. Well, that's very high directive and it's not going to work with some people.
Yeah.
And in look, Professor Gerald Williams, USA, bless his heart, did some wonderful research on negotiation, and he described two types of people, aggressives and cooperatives. Now, if you're dealing with a cooperative, they'll respond to, I'm not sure if you're aware of that. If you've identified that your person is an aggressive, and there's two types, effective and ineffective, 6%, according to Professor Williams, 6% are ineffective aggressives. That an example. They'll agree to something at one meeting, then come back, either deny that it was agreed to unless it's in writing, or say, no, I'm not happy with that, and then they want a fresh agreement. Whereas a cooperative will go by, well, we agreed to that. Unless there's a really good reason, people stick to that agreement. So if you're a cooperative, it's lovely dealing with cooperatives. If you're a cooperative, you have to learn how to take a different tack if you identify they're on the aggressive side of the continuum.
Great insight. Let's move on to question number three, and let's talk about your book. Your book is called Manage Self, Lead Others. For those who are watching on YouTube, you can see it in the back of her. In your experience, what are the biggest self leadership mistakes preventing otherwise talented people from becoming great leaders?
Well, I put it down to not enough one-on-one conversations. And the reason I know this is I had multiple people in my team as a small business. At one point, there were 8 full-time staff and 20 facilitators around the country at its peak. uh, I sort of uh, did a hometown move, and at the same time, kind of reduced the well, the requirements to actually keep growing. So I've sort
Yeah.
of taken a bit of a step back. But I had a management consultant come in to do a business plan. Look, I'd started my business without doing one. So 10 years into it, I did a business plan. And he did one-on-ones. And what he said to me was, um, you need to do more on one-on-ones because they told me information that you didn't know about. And they told me they didn't know because all I ever have with them is group meetings and group events. I'll take them out to lunch or,
Yeah.
for birthdays or, Christmas or celebrations. And I would have group meetings, regular ones, almost daily. But they said, I never have a chance to have a sit down one on one, and I don't feel comfortable asking for it. I don't know why they didn't feel comfortable, but that's because I hadn't set it up as that's what we do. But I've subsequently working with best of breed companies, that's what their teams do. In fact, I've just been working with a government department in rural Victoria, and they all do one on ones as a natural thing. Now, of course, that's evolved over time. I worked at ABC Television as a production manager, and I was entry level after film school. So I was really relying on their guidance. I was 6 weeks into the job when my supervisor pointed to the two secretaries, as they called them, across the hall, like outside my room, but near where I am. Oh, you're leading them. And I went, oh, am I? And 6 weeks of not leading them, the horse had bolted. There was no way they would take direction from me. But beside that, I didn't know how to give direction. I learned how to do budgets for a feature film. I wasn't taught how to lead people. And in those days, television, they didn't know how to lead me. They didn't
Incredible.
have a one on one with me. Where do you want to go in the organization, Nina? Oh, yeah, I want to sit at the computer and do a budget for year in and year out. I don't think so.
So I mean, and it's true. Like if we're used to doing something one way, like you gave an example, always having group meetings, you're only gonna get that side of things with your employees or feedback. So to be a great leader, you have to look at to do things in multiple facets in your company
Oh, yes.
to be a great leader because you could be a manager or a great leader, two different things.
A manager looks after operations, a leader looks after people, and a performance appraisal is not a one on one. I mean, it is, but that's too late. A one on one is a how are you going?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? What are you working on? Are there any obstacles? Can I help you remove any of those obstacles? In other words, you're telling them, I've got your back. You tell me what's stopping you from being the most effective that you can be, and I'll see what I can do. And look, I actually have had one-on-ones, but didn't call them that because I had some teams, some team members that would do school hours after they dropped off the kids from school. And I had another gap year student, as we call them, between school and university. She was 4 days a week. It was easy for me to have a one-on-one with her because she was the only one in the office at the start. But I remember one day, just out of interest, popped into my head. Look, let's mark down on the flip chart what are all the tasks that you do regularly as a standard operating procedure, and let's identify which ones do you like and are there any that you don't like that you specifically don't like. And we identified two out of the 20 or so that were regular bits and pieces that she did, which surprised me. I had no idea that it would have been those two, if any at all. And I said, you know what? Let's see if we can swap these tasks with someone else. We've got other people in the office, they might like the variety.
Yeah.
So to me, and I've had managers tell me, oh, yeah, yeah, I'll ask people what don't they like doing and I'll see if I can shift it for them. That to me is a given. I wish someone had said that to me when I was working in television. Nina, we want a cash flow forecast. Hey, I wouldn't
optimizing,
mind being in the studio for a day.
yeah, optimizing the performance of the operation by just giving tasks that people like to do is really big in business. That's key. Um, we do have to move to question number 4, Nina.
Let's go.
All right. You've studied emotional intelligence, change management, design thinking, customer service, leadership. If you could only teach one skill that would have the biggest impact on a person's success, what would it be and why?
Definitely emotional intelligence. And the reason I say this, people think they have a high IQ. I mix with socially with people with high IQs, but sometimes their interpersonal skills are very lacking. And it's the ability to articulate in a language that avoids. This is what you learn in emotional intelligence, how the psychology of influence. And you won't influence people by telling them they should do this, they must do that, they ought to, they have to, they're required to. It's the perception of choice. And what's interesting is when I still have an ex Royal Australian Air Force facilitator that does occasional presentations on my behalf to some of my clients. And for a while there, I had 3 or 4 in different states, and they told me that different. This is in Australia, of course. I don't know what it's like in other countries. Different to say the other defence forces like the army or the navy, where it was or still is command and control. They said there's an element of perception of choice when giving orders, because I suppose Air Force, it could be a plane that's going into an area where they have to make decisions in the moment, and perhaps people on the ground are making support decisions in the moment. So whatever uh, whatever order they're given, there's that element of, but you're the problem solver. You have to assess on the spot. So you've got that leeway to make the right decision on the spot, but this is your order. And they've just told me about the perception of choice. And I've applied that in language. You might like to, dot, 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 before you tell people, oh, you have to, or you got to,
Yeah.
or do you want, another one is, would you be willing to? I find that works really beautifully because not will you come to my party? Well, that's not a good one because people probably want to come to my party. Would you be willing to come in on Saturday and help me do a cash flow forecast because I need somebody to help me, but we can do it. We're too busy during the week. We're on the weekend. Would you be willing to? Not will you?
Yeah.
Because then they're going, well, they're working out in their head, are they willing to?
Yeah.
And then they're choosing to come in. If I say, will you come in? They'll probably go away muttering to themselves, why do I have to come in on a Saturday?
Will
Even
I
though
get more
I've
more
asked,
money?
will you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm just saying, um, and also when you're giving feedback, simple one, late for meetings. Would you be willing to try and get there at least a minute or two before the meeting starts so you're not last minute, so you're already settled in? Would you be willing to at the end of feedback?
Yeah.
Not will you come in early? Now they're starting to feel like it's punitive, it's a direct command, and people don't.
Lead.
You're being an adult, you're being a parent to a child instead of adult to adult.
Yeah, and basically what you're doing is you're getting the same answer that you're trying to get as a leader, but you're leading the people to make the decision, which really that was their choice in the first place. That was where you wanted them to land in the first place.
You got it.
Yeah. So
Now,
it,
some people will say, isn't that manipulation? Manipulation is only if you're hiding pertinent facts that they would definitely say no to if they knew the answer.
yeah.
Right. But if it's all on board and all clear, to best of your knowledge, that's that we all try to influence. Some people know techniques that work and others do not. That's
we
all it is.
we do it as parents with kids. We can scream at the kids to go take their bathtub, their bath, or we can say, make it a game and try to influence them to go take their bath. You get the same results, but the way the action or the way the end result is You might have a screaming fit in the bathtub, or you might have a good time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Spot
okay,
on, Mario.
Nina, our last question. I love talking with you, but this podcast format is a short format, so let's keep on
Yes.
pace. Our last question that I have, looking back at your journey from performing arts to television, you spoke about that, to becoming a sought after leadership expert. What lessons or belief has had the greatest impact on your success that most people rarely talk about?
Well, you see, I used to teach speed reading. The first 10 years of my business was speed reading. But I was an avid reader even as a child, and I have a degree in English literature. I used to say to myself, ABR, always be reading. So I always had a book in my bag if I was traveling. And of course, this is before the internet, before Kindle. I've noticed that people only read their phones now, and they're not reading necessarily books on their phone. They're reading thought pieces that are abbreviated and summarized. And I'm afraid that people are losing their ability to do deep reading. And one of the interviewees on my podcast recently, Randy Gage, who is a top 25 speaker in the USA, he's one of the most sought after speakers. Uh, he said that he reads an hour a day because he has to fill the reservoir of knowledge in his brain to be able to give advice to people. I can only give great advice, and some of the concepts I mentioned today, I read in the last week. It informs
Yeah.
anytime I speak, whatever I read that is deep reading informs what I when I do presentations. And you know what I like about my podcast? Nearly always it's an expert with a book, and I force myself to fit in the time to read their book, and I can speed read, but to read their book and ask questions, even if it's not meant to be a book review.
Yeah.
But even if it's just to get context for that speaker, I've got an interview myself tomorrow for Manage Self Lead Others, which are with a very well-known Australian communication expert. But I'll be reading her book tonight, and I'll be getting questions from it. But I've told her it's not a book review. The conversation will go wherever it goes.
Yeah.
So I'm always watering the garden of my brain with deep reading of books, where you go deep into a topic.
And it's true. A lot of us, I'm guilty myself, we get into the, I would say maybe not laziness, but easy way out of consuming information that it's on our phone. It's like, you know, the scrolling, the reading titles. But when you read a book, you actually force your brain to understand more the concepts of what you're reading.
Yeah,
And
and of course you could put a Kindle in your bag. I know there's the Kindle app on your phone, but I'm going to say this. For decades, I was ABR, always be reading. But you see, now I'm on the other side. ABW, always be writing.
like that.
So I always travel with a notebook and a pen, and I handwrite, free write, uh, the next either blog article or the next chapter for to be published. I'm always writing, and that's because I spent decades always reading.
Beautiful. Nina Sunday, first of all, thank you so much for answering my questions today, giving value to our audience. I hope that every listeners will take a piece of your advice and take it on their journey. Where can they listen to your podcast, or
Well,
what is it called?
the audio is on all the apps, Manage
Okay.
Self Lead Others, and on YouTube it's forward slash at Manage Self Lead Others podcast.
Okay.
So YouTube forward slash at symbol Manage Self Lead Others podcast. And I, as a speaker, I'm available at ninasunday.com, and in Australia for trainings, Australia, New Zealand, brainpowertraining.com.au.
Perfect. Nina, once
And connect
again,
with me on LinkedIn. Tell me, oh, and please do a review for my podcast. People forget. Well, you can only do it on Apple, unfortunately, but it's getting better, easier to be able to do
perfect.
that.
Thank you so much once again, Nina, and we'll talk soon.
Much success with your podcast, Mario. It's a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the 5 Questions podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell on our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned for more insights and tips to transform your real estate and business game. See you next time.